Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That's not your bike, I hear you say. Well, it is. Let's go somewhere and I'll tell you all about it. Oh, welcome to Smellbridge, home of inexplicable traffic backups. It's Sunday afternoon, where are you all going? Alright, this isn't going to be a grumpy coffee because where I'm going, I'm going to be fed tea and sandwiches, so that'll have to wait for during the week. As mentioned earlier, and I realise I only kind of peripherally mentioned it last time in the Grumpy Coffee. Um, if I'm going to upload videos again, I should probably tell you that I got new bikes. I got new bikes. Feels very. Anyway, no, I changed both of my bikes this year because I'm a tick. I've gone back to more traditional bike solutions. So what happened was, and actually, you probably missed an entire bike's worth of time. Because what happened was, I bought the new 1290 Super Adventure in 2021, the new model, and it was shocking. Well, it wasn't shocking; it was actually a grand bike. But what had happened was they changed everything accessory wise. So I had a lovely Touratech seat for the old bike that did not fit the new bike, which I really should have checked. Other stuff like crash bars, luggage, all that sort of shit was all new, and people took months to get that stuff in. Just a long fucking time, a long wait to get the bike how I wanted for touring, and I gotta, there's no point in saying I'm not going to name the dealer, but M50 Honda, the only kind of dealer in the Dublin area for KTM, also kind of didn't help. They just kind of fucked up a lot. So I'm back on the BMW train, as I might have mentioned before. So I'm on the 1250 GS, which you can definitely go wrong with, but there's fewer ways to go wrong with. And you'll have to forgive me, I'm a little snotty because I got my regular scheduled seasonal sinus infection a week ago, so I'm still not 100%, and I'm just kind of going around going boo, still. So, but anyway, this bike here, this isn't an electric bike, as you might have mentioned, and I think it was roughly when I stopped uploading videos. I think one of my last videos might have been like, I bought the Zero. So I bought a Zero SRS, which is their new, well, it's not new anymore because they put out other bikes instead, and I think there's a new model of the SRS even out, and which was their sort of flagship fared bike, sports touring, whatever you want to call it. And it's a fucking class bike. It was nice. It was loads of power and loads of torque and loads of good crack and handled well. And I liked it. It was a good bike. But the problem with the bike was I ordered it in March of 2020, which was a bad time to order it for my purposes, particularly because at the time I had like a 10-ish kilometer commute into work, and I was like, and I had the Zero DS before that, and I was commuting into work, and I was like, this is class. And I got snared into I sort of said, if to come out with I didn't like naked bikes really, and if I come out, I said if to come out with a fared version of that bike, then I'll consider it. And then 2 weeks later they come out with a fared version. I'm like, fuck it anyway, fuck it. So yeah, I bought that. I ordered it. It came during lockdown, of course. I think I ordered it like the week before we all got sent home from work. Came during lockdown. Happened to be within a certain number of kilometers of a certain dealer, or give or take, and went and got it, and then rode it around a bit and put it in the garage. And I'm not going to say it sat there. Like, I put several thousand kilometers on it over the course of the ensuing year or so. Well, was it a year? It was nearly 2 years. and yeah, that's what went down. It didn't get the use because what happened was I didn't have a commute, and then during lockdown I changed jobs, as I said last time, and I now don't have a commute, and I'm not going to have a commute, which is good in some ways, but in other ways, this massive this massive investment in what I would class as still one of the most perfect commuting bikes you can have, bar none. It was sitting in the garage going, yeah, take me out on a little spin, but not too far. The range on it was grand. The range was, I was getting 170, 180 kilometers out of a charge, and that's giving it the beans. Like that's on roads like this. It's city riding, you get way more. You get over 200, and it really does depend on whether you're giving it the beans. So I, if I'm doing this spin down to Kildare, down to the Ancestrals, I can probably do that. I can definitely do that. There's no hassle at all. If I want to go around the Wicklow Gap from North Dublin, nah, you can't do it. Right? It's too far, and you'd have to split your day by sitting in the middle charging, and like it takes an hour. Like if you find a fast charger, it takes about an hour to charge it. But who can be fucking bothered? Right? If there was a fast charger sitting in Lara, I might still own the bike just for shits and giggles. But no, that's not how it goes down. So every time I said, I'm going to sell the bike, I'm going to get rid of it, I'm going to get something else, I would go out to the garage and I'd say, right, time to get it ready to sell, and then I'd get up with it, and then I'd go, oh, time to ride the bike, and I'd go out and I'd go, oh, do you know what, no, I'll leave it. So eventually I held my nose this year and went, you know what, I need a bike I can actually use. If I'm going to like go on longer trips on a non-touring bike, which again may end up happening at some point, it's not going to be that bike. And it was just like, this isn't a knock on electric bikes. They certainly do have their place, like electric cars, and similarly to how like you're going to have a bother bringing an electric car on a long tour, you're going to have a bother bringing an electric bike on a long tour. It just is what it is, especially in Ireland, where the charging network is still shite. It's just really bad. Like, you can find a charger, but it's one of those shitty little 22 kilowatt chargers that'll take all fucking day to charge anything. Compared to the likes of Norway, where like in the arsehole of nowhere there's a 250 watt or 250 kilowatt or 500 kilowatt charger just sitting there that'll get your bike back on the road, in 20 minutes. Yeah, there's no comparison. Ireland isn't there yet. But as a commuter, if you have a commute of, like, I would say up to 80 or 90 kilometres each way, and I know one lad who commutes from our side of Wicklow into town and then leaves it on the trickle charger in town. Fantastic, just really, really nice. Storage on the bike, and just so economical to run. Not that economy is the thing just yet. But anyway, I went and I said, you know what, it's time for a change, and so came up with the old short lists. What I wanted to probably get was something for messing on. Right, and by messing, I mean I have a touring bike. I have what you could argue, and I will argue, what I have is the touring bike. Right, there's nothing. If I'm going on a long trip, even if I'm going on like a 1 or 2 day trip, yeah, that's the bike. That's the one you want. So I wanted a second bike for spinning, right? Because again, the GS is a big, hefty yoke. Like, it's grand for riding around, but I wanted something a little bit more crack, kind of like the Zero but with range. And that was my sort of criteria, is like the Zero but with range. Faired or non-faired, I'm not actually mad fussy. I prefer faired, but there you go. And so I went out, and I'm in a similar boat with cars at the moment. If you want to go buy a car, and we bought a car this year as well, and my thing I said to dealers going out is like, listen, I have things I want in a car, but the primary thing I want is I want to be able to buy it. You know, I want to be. I'm not a signing up for 4 months or 6 months and waiting. Kind of. That's it. Like I'll lose interest. You know, like I'll come back a month later saying sorry, blew my load on something else. Deposit back, please. Like that'll be it. I'll just if I get in mind that I want something, I want it now, this absolute instant. So that's how we bought a car. And it's what I did. I went off. I took a day. I went into several dealers in a similar area, and the bikes I was looking at. And again, it depends on whether you can get a go on one as well, because I did want to do that. So the bikes I was looking at was we met a shop in Norway that had a Supersport 950, and it's fucking nice. It's nice. I never saw myself as a Ducati person, but I looked at it and I was like, it's not a fucking the grave is calling you Ducati, like where you're you know it's pure speed all of the time. It seemed to be a little more comfy and city up in sports touring and etc. So I said, you know what, I could deal with that. So my short was like the Supersport 950, maybe the Aprilia Tuono, or the Aprilia non-factory, which of course would have the disadvantage of being the non-Gucci version of Graham's bike, which of course we can't have. And what was the other one? MT10. A couple of different ones that I was kind of half my eye on. And so I went in and I went into Triumph Ducati. For those not in Dublin, there's a dealer which is Triumph and Ducati and Harley Davidson, and they're all in one showroom, or separate showrooms in one big building. And I went in looking at Supersport and I was like, this is a bad sign, there isn't one in the showroom. And I asked your man and he said, yeah, you're not getting one of those. Well, he didn't say that. He said, like, you're going to be waiting. And I'm like, right, that's that off the list. Shite. And I said, what have you got that's in that sort of category? And he said, we have a Speed Triple. And he had two of them sitting there for test rides. And I was like, right. So I test rode the Speed Triple. And I mean, obvious spoilers. I'm sitting on one, so here. So, like, okay, skip to the end of the story if you want. So I rode the Speed Triple and it was very nice indeed, and I'll talk about the specifics of it in another little while. And then I went across to another dealer and I rode the Aprilia Tuono factory, which was also very nice indeed. I tried riding the smaller Aprilia Faird bike, the 660, I forget what it's called. And I could barely sit on the fucking thing. As you know, I'm a more well-upholstered gent, so that one was not going to work out. And so while we were looking at Aprilias, they also had as a tester the Tuono factory. Tuono factory, yeah. And I took that out, and that was class. I actually really enjoyed riding that bike. The noise off of it is unreal, and it's very aggressively aggressive. But the one thing not in its favour, I guess, is even from the test ride, and I literally took it out, down some roads on the motorway, off the motorway, around some twisty bends. I was like, cool. This is great crack. I can feel the grave calling me. It was like a very fast bike, a very aggressive bike, just in everything that it does. And so if that is your bag, that's a class bike. And so I was looking at that, and I was also looking at the Tuono V4, which is a very similar bike aside from styling and I think the active suspension, and so it's like $3,000 less. Didn't like the style of the Tuono V4. It's very sports touring-y. It has to distinguish itself from the V4 factory. And I was like, I'm not really going sports touring-y. I have a touring bike. I'm never going to be putting luggage on this thing. So it was at that stage down to the Tuono factory and this, the Speed Triple. And so, you know which way I went. There was about 3 grand or so in the difference, this being the cheaper bike. And I just preferred this bike. I preferred riding it. It's still a very fast bike, but it's not trying to kill you, all of the time. It will definitely kill you if you let it. But, oh Jesus Christ, I'm not going down here. No, this was a silly idea. Let's do something else. No. I was going to go back through some back roads, but then I remembered that Maynooth gives me hives. So, bit of a motorway break. Talk to you in a little bit. Alright, this'll have to do you. Lucan is pretty silly, but it's not as silly as Maynooth. Anywho, nah, not waiting for you, cunts. Good luck. Anywho, yeah, the toss-up was very specific to me. I'm not saying that this is a better bike than the Tuono V4. In fact, I'm not even going to say the opposite. In fact, nothing. It's the bike that I preferred. I preferred the height of it and the responsiveness of it, and I like these bar and mirrors, and the fit and finish is unbelievable. Compared to, if you look at what I've said before in reviews of bikes, the difference between, for example, BMW and some of the Far East manufacturers is good, just in terms of like what the pegs are like, what the plastics are like, all of that sort of stuff. The fit and finish on this is great. It's just, there's nothing flimsy, there's nothing sort of plasticky or horrible or etc. like that. The one thing I will point at as an example of that is the tail tidy. Right, so you have a tail tidy that's gone out past your back wheel. Sometimes if you buy a bike like this, you'll be like, I'm going to buy a smaller tail tidy that puts the indicators and etc. back up under the seat, because usually tail tidies are like nasty black plastic. The tail tidy of this is brushed aluminium with a little stripe in it, and it's fucking class looking. It's actually nice looking. I'm going to leave it, I'm going to leave it alone. Illuminated switchgear, very nice touch. Just the switchgear in general is very robust and very nice and very good on the hand. Seat is pretty nice. Just the little touches and big touches were very nice. I'm gonna say that in some cases it's nicer than the Aprilia in terms of the fit and finish, to my eye anyway. And that's the eye that matters. So. And so yeah, that was nice. And another thing it has going for it, and I'll get off it and have a look at it in a second, is just I really like the finish on it. A matte finish bike. A bike that you're not supposed to keep all shiny and shiny. The 1200 RS, which this is, comes in either this finish, which I'll show you in a second, or like shiny black. And so I'm fucking done trying to keep bikes shiny black, or shiny any colour. It's not what I get bikes for, and it's very sort of samey and etc. So the paint scheme on this is a nice sort of anyway, you'll see in a second. And so they took the zero. They gave me what I think is a reasonable amount given the funny nature of the bike. I was happy, and that's all that matters. I mean, I wasn't happy, but I was prepared because you're not going to sell a second-hand electric bike right now the same way you'll sell a second-hand combustion engine bike or petrol bike. It's just not the same market. It's a high-stakes market for a start. There aren't a lot of 4-digit numbers going around when it comes to the price of proper electric motorcycles. So definitely it's a bit of a gamble for anyone who takes a trade-in of an electric bike. And so signs point to promising for folks out at Dublin Triumph, Harley Davidson,
Ducati. You know, they took it in. It was all good. Gave me a reasonable amount for it. Other dealers were not as forthcoming and tried to offer me dirt for it, basically saying we can't sell that bike. We're doing you a favour. And I'm like, yeah, okay, right, yeah, fine. Pull the other one. It's like at a certain point, it's weird that somebody is going to say to you like, nobody wants an electric bike, and so we can't really sell that on. And I'm like, you're talking to a person who wants an electric bike, who knows other people who would have an electric bike, and who, when offered one at like 10 grand off retail, are gonna take the hand off you. And so I don't understand that somebody who's trying to tell you that the bike you're trying to sell to him is dirt and worthless and shite. And I'm just like, listen, I know it's not shite. Like, I mean, come on, I'm not trying to actually do you out of money here, but be reasonable. And so, yeah, I've seen the price it's up for my trade-in, and if they get that, they'll have made a decent chunk of change off the bike. So clearly they knew what they were doing. And so, yeah, I spent a little while. I bought this in, I think it was August, September kind of time. So it's properly run in. I can go vroom vroom on it now. And it's definitely the surprisingly pleasant October Sunday out for a spin bike, more so than the GS. Mainly because the GS needs a front tyre. And I'm too lazy to go get that tyre changed. So this is what comes out. And so I have a couple of bits and bobs coming for, well actually they've already arrived for this bike. I just had to overcome my laziness and stick them on. There's a tank pad for my razor sharp cock and balls that protects the front of the tank there, which is a weird omission on a new bike. And so I went and paid the additional tax to get the Triumph official one. And then I have an exhaust hanger coming, so I'm going to take the pillion pegs off this because, first of all, it doesn't have a pillion seat by default, and also, like, I have zero plans to put Mrs. Grumpy on the back of this. She'd be nervous enough even on the GS, and so it's not going to be taking a pillion, so I'm going to put the hanger in that doubles as a pillion peg and delete the other one as well. They don't look out of place, they don't look crazy bad, the pillion pegs, you'll see them in a second, but I wanted to take them off anyway, so there is an elimination kit for those. I have no desire to do any exhaust related things to this. I think the exhaust on this is plenty loud. I have a sweet spot when it comes to loud exhausts. Like, the exhausts should make their presence known without being obnoxious, and this one I think is in a good spot for me. I did change the exhausts for the Akrapovic N-Can on the GS because I think that the GS is a little bit too manually by default, and just because I like cool shit. This bike is, if you want to make noise, you can make noise. Like, it's grand, it's but so I've no desire to make it any louder or different timbre or anything like that. Who knows, maybe in a year or two I will, but if I still have the bike, because you know what I'm like. 'Tis the season for mashed in leaf mulch on the road, which is like fucking ice. So I'm kind of watching out for that. There it is. Maybe not. Maybe not today. I don't pretend to make sense of when the park is open and when it's not open. I just try to go in it and give up sometimes. But on the other hand, we get to see the Bridge of Nuns. See if there's any nuns on it that we can wave at. Any nuns? No. No nuns today. Anyone? Come on. No nuns on the Bridge of Nuns. They're all in their compartments. This huge trailer full of shit-filled porta cabins smells amazing. I'm going to go and try and get around it here. Now, the traffic gods have frowned on my journey. It appears that my journey will feature boxes of shite being bounced up and down in front of my face. Here it is. Hopefully the light isn't too terrible. Yeah, obviously it's a naked or super naked or hyper naked or whatever you want to call it. And it is there. There are plenty of pictures of it online, but that's an idea of the paint job and just how kind of big it is in person. It looks bigger in person than the pictures. You see a picture of a bike and you're like, that looks big. Then I hop up on it and I'm like, I'm barely able to flat foot this thing. So it is quite a big bike. Yeah, there's the tail tiny brushed aluminium. Ooh la la. So that's staying on because it doesn't look all that shite. Pillion pegs, when you're looking at them, they look a bit weird looking, but most of the time you're not looking at them. They're going to get taken off in any case. There's my alarm. Running around to the front, and hopefully I'm not looking directly into the sun here. The front is pretty okay. I was half thinking of getting the fly screen, but I don't think I'll bother. Stay with the bike the way it is. I've put my road lock on, which I took off the zero. And yeah, that is the Speed Triple. Not much to say about it, aside from it's pretty class. No pillion seat by default, and yet pillion pegs. That's weird. And the switch gear is pretty nice. I like the Baron mirrors. I've seen them on other Triumphs, and I used to think they were a bit naff looking, but they're actually class. Especially since I am wide, and where I've had sportier bikes before, I've had to fuck about with the mirrors a little bit to get them a little wider. But yeah, the switchgear, is self-explanatory. It has that weird combined button on the right for starting and kill switch and all that sort of stuff, which is fine. You get used to it. And keyless start, so I have the key here on me, except what I now have to do is take my key out and turn the alarm off, because I have the alarm set to auto set because I'm a forgetful bastard. So alarm off. And then you switch it on. Switch her on. It does take a while to start up. That is something that I have heard about online and I've experienced in real life. If I'm making a quick getaway, this is not the bike to make a quick getaway, because it takes several seconds to think about its feelings and to show you a little animation before you can even start the bike. And that's, depending on how annoying you'll find that annoying. And yeah, the dash is pretty good. No fucking about. You got your kmh and your RPMs and your fuel and the time and the temperature, and that's it. Right? And there's a menu button and a little joystick. And, there's 2 menu buttons and a joystick here on the bars, and yet it doesn't seem crowded. So it's pretty nice. And then you take the kill switch off. Find out it's in second. Find neutral, which is a bit of a pain in the arse on this bike. There's neutral. And get it started. And it starts pretty manually. It doesn't do much aside from just go from off to on. And then it's what you do after that makes it have fewer manners. So I don't know if this is the road I should be riding on, so it's not, so I'm going to turn around. Yes, I am also traffic. Please go. And yeah, I have to remember to use the gears, because this thing will happily piss along at 50 kph and low revs in first. So that'll give you an idea of, it's probably a quite speedy bike. The clue is in the name. But as followers or anyone who's gone on a ride out with me will attest, I'm not a fast rider. I don't do the fastness. I I can do the fastest, but I only occasionally want to, and I generally want to go home. So I'm not judgy about people who are fast, but I am not a fast rider. Why did you buy a fucking speed triple? You might ask. And the answer is because it's a class bike. I like riding it. It's you might say it's wasted on me, but I got news for you, fella. It's wasted on you too. Chances are, like we're all riding on the road, and I'm not going to pretend people obey the speed limits, but in general, like you're not, unless you're tracking the bike, like unless you're out on a track, you're not going to be stressing this bike at all. Like nobody is. So I have it for the same reason, is to have the power there because it's good crack to have the power there, and to occasionally use it because it's good crack to occasionally use it. And so yeah, I don't have what else to say. This video is about the new stable, I guess, the new stable of bikes, and a chance to take a look at this speed triple. The GS I mightn't bother with because honestly, it's a fucking GS. Like, how much do you want to see? That's the bad thing, is that here's the GS. Everyone knows what a GS looks like. There's nothing particularly big or interesting or special about it. It's just a class bike that does everything you need. Go look at pictures or any one of the other hundreds of thousands of videos of GSs to see what the story is. Nutty head. So I did make it into the park. Lots of people out here enjoying their bank holiday. Going to the Yazoo. Is the Yazoo open? Anyway, that's my Sunday afternoon. Going out for a little spin and getting fed full of tea and cake and talking about how relatable I am with my new bikes. But hopefully everyone's doing well, getting out and getting some spins in. If you have time, go over and have a look at the gorilla biker who has gotten back on a bike, and you can just see the rays of relief, pouring off him as he's up on a bike since he moved to the States. So, fair play. Go have a look at his channel. And in the meantime, I'm going to try, if the weather, which is supposed to be fine, to go do another Grumpy Coffee this week. Answers on a postcard as to where I should go. I have one suggestion for Balrigan, but let me know if there's any particular favourite coffee spot you can go to that's not a pain in the bollocks, or that I feel like going to, and you may be in some oblique way be featured on the channel. Alright, that's our lot. Talk to you soon. Good luck.